And we're back with our favorite deep state ally, Preston Stewart.
Putin made it extra complicated. Ukraine does not want to cede any of their territory. Ukraine also does not have the ability right now, from what I can tell, to take any territory back.
What started this?
So guys that were Russian military, they just didn't wear Russian patches. And it confused the whole world enough to where we didn't really do anything. And they...
Wait, are you being for real?
Yeah.
That's it. They just didn't have any unit identifiers?
Yes. Russia still refers to this as a special military operation.
Okay.
Something less than a war, but they've lost more people in this special military operation than they lost during the entire war in Afghanistan.
Is it the war in Israel? I don't know what to call it.
Hamas-Israel war.
The Hamas-Israel war
yeah.
is so charged.
Early on in the war in Gaza, there was a lot of kind of atrocity porn, if you will, coming out of what happened on October 7th. A full-scale invasion in either direction would likely lead to tens of thousands of casualties.
This episode was sponsored by Medical. Every veteran deserves respect, competency, and clarity when pursuing a disability claim. Of course, we all know the frustration is much more common. If you're looking for a better path and documentation that strengthens your disability rating request, start with our sponsor, Medical. Re's team of professionals work with a network of experienced physicians, and they've already provided meaningful medical evidence for more than 25,000 veterans. And while they can't guarantee what the VA will decide, 95%, let me say that again, 95% of their clients reported receiving a disability rating of 70% or higher. That's because when you connect with Medical, they take the time to explain your options before you pay for anything. Free consultations. So don't give up on a stalled process or settle for an unfavorable decision from the VA. Cut through the frustration with accurate medical evidence and a streamlined approach that allows you to pursue your claim confidently. Head over to remedical.com, that's Romeo Echo Echo medical.com to book your free consultation. Check out our link in the podcast section for more details. And we're back with our favorite deep state ally, Preston Stewart. You can find him anywhere online, Preston Stewart on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. And if you really want good information, go check out his Substack as well.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah. It's been fun.
Unbiased, truthful, honest, no bull. Pay the man.
There we go. One day. We'll get that taken care of.
Just cut a piece.
It's a giant company, right? I'm just a guy.
They hired a famous vegetarian. They can hire you.
Level that out. One medium.
Level it out. Give you some avocado ice cream. Not TB12, just PS1.
It's okay.
You know what I'm saying?
All right.
Hey, now we're talking. But no, you're well-known journo, a bastion of truth in these dark, dark times. The shining bright light on the hill of the internet white noise nonsense. And
Love hearing all this.
You're
this
great.
Is good. Yeah.
Yeah. I hate that I have so much respect for someone who went to West Point. I never thought it would happen.
It's great. Yeah, we're all soaking it in.
No, it's fine. Your parents loved you. It's okay. It's not your fault. So, but we've pulled up the map, which talk about the URL.
This is great. Yeah.
What's the URL?
Yeah. If I can change this, I would change this. Is this going to be on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Deep State map is actually a very good Deep State. It's not. It's that's what they chose.
Yeah.
It's actually a very good resource. It's a publicly available resource. It's a zoomed click to show the front lines in Ukraine. I don't know why they picked this, but it's yeah.
They didn't bring you into that
Deep State.
meeting.
I wasn't in that conversation.
Okay.
No.
So that was before you were carrying all that water for
That's
NATO.
Right. Yeah.
So, question. I'm going to ask dumb questions.
Fire away.
Bear with me. How long has the conflict been going on now? Is it technically considered a war? What is it a war? It's a war, right?
It's a war in the same way that we would call Iraq and Afghanistan wars, even though we didn't declare them wars at times. Russia still refers to this as a special military operation.
Okay.
Something less than a war, but they've lost more people in this special military operation than they lost during the entire war in Afghanistan for the Russians back in the 80s. So It's a war. We're just kind of playing with semantics at that point. Of course, it's a war for Ukraine because their kind of survival is at stake in a lot of ways. But yeah, in Russian media, they do still refer to it as a special military operation.
Okay. What started this?
Depends which direction you go. So you really need to, at the very least, start in 2014 when Russia started. Actually, the map is a great spot for this. So on this Deep State map here, we've got a bunch of different colors. The purple right now is portions of Donetsk and Luhansk in the east. That's what's referred to as the Donbass. And then a little further south, you have Crimea. Both of those areas were Ukrainian territory in 2014. Russia moved little green men in. So guys that were Russian military, they just didn't wear Russian patches. And it confused the whole world enough to where we didn't really do anything. And they
Wait, are you being for real?
Yeah.
They just like didn't have any like unit identifiers?
Yeah. I mean, you can type in, if you type in little green men Crimea, you'll probably see some pictures here.
In Google?
Yeah. And it was actually, all things considered, very well done by Russia. We were not sure how to react to this. How do you punish Russia if you can't confirm that these actually are Russian troops?
Oh my God. This is
kind of
real.
gray zone type tactics. I mean, they genuinely at times just took their flag off their shoulder and said, no, these are militiamen.
They literally
These are
said,
patriots.
They literally said, prove it.
Yeah.
They just like walked in like, this is ours now. And they're like, you're from Russia. And they're like, prove it, bro.
Yep.
That's kind of bothersome.
It was pretty effective.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just interesting.
It's crazy.
Okay. So 2014, Russia starts seizing land in Ukraine.
Donbass and Crimea. And it never really stopped since then. There's been a kind of persistent fighting along those borders. And Ukraine's perspective is that they're trying to liberate their territory, that this foreign adversary came in and took over. Russia from the get-go has been saying they're trying to liberate historic Russian lands and free people from being oppressed because they're Russian. Is kind of the two sides of that, if you will.
That's Putin's line.
Yeah, it's a very historical context.
Yeah, he cites historical context famously in that interview with Tucker Carlson.
A lot of senior figures in Russia do not necessarily believe that Ukraine should exist. They believe it to be a part of Russia, which I think personally kind of gives the best context of what's happening right now.
So that's not just Putin. Like a lot of people believe that?
Hard to say how many, but people in the inner circle will regularly cite that as
it's not being pushed top down. They really have that belief.
Okay, hard to tell. It could have been that it was his view and they've taken it in. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where that originated per se, but there's a fair amount of decision makers there, to the degree they exist outside of Putin, that don't think Ukraine is a real thing.
Interesting. Smart, because if you don't believe it's real, then you can justify all your actions associated with it.
Special military operation, not a war, all sorts of. This is
dehumanizing aspects to it.
For sure.
Actually, yeah.
And you get down a rabbit hole where you can find Russia's pretty effective in the information war, and they've done a good job of seeding a lot of different kind of narratives and stories about why they're doing what they're doing. All of them have all of them start with a piece of truth, and then they kind of just build off that. So they're all very, very hard to push back against with a single piece of information, if that makes sense.
No, I understand that. What is there any type of insight to what the general population in Russia believe about all this?
Yeah,
like what's their stance?
It's been very interesting. So a lot of the people going to fight are, and this can be a shocker for somebody familiar with the military, are not the wealthy, and they're not coming from the wealthier areas of Russia. They're coming from the poor districts.
No way.
And they're being paid in such a way that it's actually a pretty good living. So there are plenty of stories of spouses saying you need to go. And not only do you need to go, you need to sign up for this assault type unit because you're gonna make more money. There's people coming back from the war. Yeah.
So they're tiering it. Like if you're like admin, you get paid this much. And if you're an assault section, you get paid this much.
To a degree. Yeah.
They're incentivizing it. They're building in a bonus structure, basically.
The assault units make more money. They make less money in the long run, if you catch my drift.
No, I understand. Yeah. Young man's game.
Yeah.
To say the least. Wow.
So there's an incentive to go there, make some money, more than you ever would back in certain portions of Russia.
Huh.
And there's been a lot of stories I've reported on some of these of people talking about how great their life is since the war started because they are flush with cash for the first time relatively in their lives.
Damn. They're doing counterinsurgency in their own country, basically. Like they're hitting it on all fronts. They're ensuring that their military force loves it. Wow.
I mean, to a degree, you get those, but then you also get plenty of folks. There's a lot of people dying, and there's no way to hide it.
For sure.
A lot of people coming back maimed and injured or starting to come back and then being sent back to the front. But the overall impact to the Russian economy, to the Russian citizenry, has not been very intense. I mean, they've lost a lot of people, and there's a lot
Do you
of
think
folks
they
who felt
care?
that. Well, that's where you get into this. It's a concern about this war, because one of the major things was, let's put some sanctions on Putin and watch the oligarchy crumble and say, hey, you got to stop this war. And they didn't. Well, we pulled that lever. You can't pull that lever really anymore.
You're talking about like on like all the oil exports and all that jazz?
All of the sanctions, seizing assets from Russian oligarchs.
Didn't he just sell it to other countries or whatever?
China's
like
buying a ton.
That's what I'm saying. Like it didn't. He's like, okay.
By and large, they're pretty insulated. So it's like, we pulled that lever. That lever didn't work. Now what?
There's nothing we can do, is there?
I mean, I think we're doing some, trying to keep Ukraine in the fight.
Yeah,
is a big part of it. It's costing Russia a lot to continue this war. A lot.
But they have untold amounts of wealth, right?
Somewhat, but we're getting back into this conversation of, what do the people feel? How do the people feel? At what point do you stop paying the soldiers as much? At what point do the living conditions decrease? At what point do more munitions start going off inside your own territory? There's entirely the possibility of reaching a tipping point. Just don't know where that is and how long it'll take Ukraine or anyone else to actually get there.
They've proven they can't stay in the fight for very long. Just look what happened in Afghanistan.
Yeah. But I think about, like, he's the master spy. Like, he's the king of spies, the king of misinformation, the king of, like, being deceptive. I just feel like he always thinks about the long game. I don't know what his end goal is, but, I mean, he's not on top for no reason. You know what I'm saying?
And part of the challenge we have with this is you want to look at it through a rational lens, right? And lay out exactly what would be the right path to achieve whatever the goals might be. But you don't know to what degree you're dealing with a rational actor. And I'm not saying this to say that Putin is off his rocker or he's stupid or anything like that, because to your point, he's risen to power and he's maintained power in a place where, it can be lawless.
It's gnarly.
At times, right?
Dude, it's gnarly. People, there's videos of, like, I remember saw a video once of, like, it was like one of his, like, political opponents, and in front of the Kremlin, he had, I don't know how this guy got shot. Like, literally the vehicle, like, stops and hits the only blind spot of the cameras, and then the vehicle doesn't go any further. Like, it is a wild, wild place.
So he's an operator. He's figured out how to operate within this context. But, we were just talking about how effective they were in 2014 and didn't really face any sanctions. Then they turned around and rolled tanks across the border. That looks like it was a mistake.
Yeah.
So what level of rational actor are we dealing with here?
It was a mistake for them to do that?
I think it was. It opened up if you look back to the weapons that were being provided to Ukraine in 2014, 2022, there was, a lot of debate around even javelins going over. Now there's F-16s, not from the United States, but we've got HIMARS, we've got tanks flowing into Ukraine, weaponry that never would have even been on the table prior to the invasion. But because those tanks rolled across the border and they started an actual war, a very clear-cut war, it kind of unleashed the West in a sense of, okay, how about some Bradleys?
Yeah. What is the general sentiment of Russia towards America? I know how we feel about them.
I think it's gotten a lot worse. I see a lot of pictures of they use American flags as doormats in some of their dugouts. Generally, kind of reading between the lines, they view us in an adversarial sense.
Especially now. It's gotten
a lot worse.
With our support of Ukraine.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because I feel like Putin has, like, always, like, I'm not going to say fantasized, but, like, it always seemed as if he looked up to, like, American celebrities.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he's I'm not going to say idolized, but he's, like, fascinated with, like, Robert Kraft of the New England Patriots. Like,
stole his ring.
Stole his Super Bowl ring.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't know that?
Because he wanted one so bad.
He, like, looked at it and he goes, "Is that your ring?" And he goes, "Yeah, it is." And then he just like took it and left.
Perfect.
And then Kraft asked his security and they're like, "We'll fucking bury you." Like, that's basically it.
Yeah, I think the general sentiment in Russia now is pretty negative towards the United States. It's not that it was ever great. Of course, there's always been some tension there, but it's gotten a lot worse since 2000.
Yeah.
Steven Seagal, 2022.
I think Steven Seagal holds, like, some form of office or ambassadorship in
He's
Russia.
something weird. He's in Russia. He lives there.
Yeah. I mean, they've really rolled out the red carpet. Whoa, that worked. Didn't intend that joke to happen for him.
Landed.
It's, I mean, there's Trump giving him a soccer ball.
Yeah,
He does like to surround himself with tough guys, though. He is that. He's like, I got Steven Seagal, which tough as they come, bro.
Yeah.
Hard to kill. You're gonna tell me that's not a great movie? He's a cop, and then he goes into a coma, comes back, and kills everyone. Probably one of the best. Under Siege, Casey Ryback, a Navy SEAL story.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, probably one of my favorites.
Now he's borderline defected.
I think he's full-blown defected.
I don't know how easily he'd be able to get back into the States at this point.
No, well, he's never coming back. Why would he want to come back? They just put him in weird movies, and he just sits behind a sniper rifle and pretends to. He goes,
It's great.
all right. He has one movie that I saw where he has a whole fight scene doing this.
In the chair?
In the chair. You got to put that clip
I could
in.
sign up for that.
Like,
You're
it's
out of
literally,
camera.
him in a room going like this. Like, in the chair. It's like, die, bad guys. Like, it's crazy.
Perfect. Yeah, he made it.
He wasn't even like, no body double. I've got it.
Don't worry about me.
Just him moving around. Okay, so that's the Russia front. Now, Zelensky. There's a lot of critiques on him. He was an actor, blah, 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 blah. Got to hand it to the guy. Knows how to cash a check. knows how to cash a check. It's, I'm not dumb enough to be like, well, where's that money? I get all that stuff, but like, how can I say this lightly?
Don't say it lightly.
I don't feel like he has a clear plan either.
Mm.
I don't think he's a tactician. His probably best tacticians are the two boxing brothers. They're they're the ones who've like literally been in a type of combat. I don't understand what his goals are either, and it worries me. Someone who I perceive to not have that clear foresight or like long-term thinking of like what this looks like. Because obviously their success is fueled by us funding them. And your friends at NATO probably. Is it Bob NATO who's writing those checks?
Bob NATO, yeah.
Yeah, that's his name. But I don't know. I don't know enough about him, but can you like, I don't know, put me on game? What am I missing here?
Yeah, I wouldn't spend too much time on the fact he was a comedian or
I don't
anything.
care.
At the end
I
of the
don't care
day,
about that. Yeah.
elected and all that. And honestly, probably, if you look at a wartime leader, probably pretty good. Like young, energetic, turns on the camera.
He can.
We'll just like do selfie videos.
Yeah.
Like, listen, he's connecting with a lot of people. I wish that caught on in other places of the world.
Well, we can't teach the boomers how to do anything, much less do all of that. So yeah.
In terms of the strategy, I think they're in a tough spot. A couple thoughts. There's only so much they can do because they have fewer people, fewer resources than Russia. The Russian military is bigger. They are able to attack from multiple sides. The Air Force is not a comparison at all. So Ukraine is limited in what they're able to do at baseline. But I actually think the bigger problem there is not necessarily with what Ukraine is trying to do, because I think they have limited options. I don't think the United States has laid out a very clear position on what does the end state look like here.
I don't think anybody has.
Now, it's tough because both sides have kind of dug in. We have the map, and Ukraine says we're gonna take back all of our territory, and Russia says no. So like, how do you divide that right now and come out to a place that people can accept? But yes, I would Ukraine's strategy, their plan is to liberate all their territory. That's it.
But that's.
I don't think they have the ability to do that right now.
I don't think they ever will.
Maybe down the road, conditions could be set to get there. But that's their plan. And for reference, put us in their shoes. If somebody just took some of our territory, we'd say, hard stop. We're taking it back. Well, how about half? How about no?
Well, but we're the U.S. of A. We're gonna get it back, and that's the difference.
How much support is Ukraine getting directly from NATO forces, like on the ground?
Yeah, so this is actually, none, not on the ground. This is an interesting little, this would be worth getting into though. So when it comes to funding, NATO doesn't provide any funding to Ukraine. They kind of quarterback it and help identify, well, NATO doesn't have any money.
Hey, I got it.
So NATO doesn't
like NATO.
Yeah. So what NATO is doing is they're serving as this kind of in-between
I understand.
to talk with Ukraine and his generals to find out what do you need. And then they go to member countries of NATO to say like, who can source 8 tanks, 6 rocket launchers, ammunition. So they're kind of quarterbacking it because NATO does not have a military. They just
What? Don't they have some sort of like security element or something to them?
minor, yeah, but it's always forces that fall under NATO command for a period of time.
Okay.
So like when I went on that French aircraft carrier, that was technically falling under NATO command, but it was France's carrier with French sailors, that kind of stuff.
What was that like?
That's cool. They bake fresh bread every single day.
Shut up.
I swear to God.
Really?
I'm not joking. And it was really, really good. Zach, it was really good.
You're like up there just like having a baguette while you're looking at jets take off?
Baguette and champagne. They were serving champagne.
On the boat.
Yep. Operational deployment. The champagne was being served to the dignitaries, the fancy people. So it wasn't like an everyday event.
Yeah.
And
you're one of them dignitaries, right?
I snuck in with the dignitaries.
Dude, what a life.
It was wild.
Dude, you're a long way from Champaign, Illinois, right?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
But I want to get to that point of assistance on the ground. There's no NATO troops providing any sort of military assistance on the ground. I have no information on this, but it wouldn't be shocked to find out there's some sort of intelligence organizations involved from multiple countries. I have nothing to go off of other than that's generally what we do. There has been a lot of speculation that we have assisted with targeting. We've flown a lot of unmanned aerial vehicles over the Black Sea at the times that strikes have taken place in Crimea, and there's speculation, which shouldn't be all that shocking, that we're helping provide real-time targeting to strike Russian assets.
Could have been anybody.
Yeah, could have been anybody.
Could have been anybody.
Also, some of those Russian assets are on Google Earth, so like I could have probably provided that targeting.
What do you mean? How are they on Google Earth?
It's an airfield.
Oh, okay.
The airfield got hit. It must have been the Reaper. It's like, or they just looked at a map.
Yeah.
It could have been either one.
Yeah.
You know.
So Google's involved in the war is what you're telling me?
We used them in Afghanistan, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
There's actually a problem with that. Companies are still selling satellite imagery over Ukraine, and Russia's using it for battle damage assessment.
Whoa.
They'll look at an airfield, purchase that imagery a few days later, and be like, "Oh, look, we missed by 500 meters. Adjust fire." That's
interesting.
Yeah.
Good on them.
Okay. So NATO's funding the war. So they're not, but they're providing support as a go-between to other countries,
and then facilitating some of the training.
But isn't that the problem though?
In what sense?
Didn't Putin like clearly say over and over again he doesn't want NATO closer to his borders?
Yeah.
And then now Ukraine's being assisted by NATO. And I'm not apologizing for anyone.
I gotcha.
What I'm saying is, if there's anything I feel that would continue to like bring his ire, it's doing the one thing that he literally said he would not stand for.
Let's zoom out and go up on the map here real quick.
Am I dumb to say that or what?
No. It's a normal thing we hear about a lot. Up there in the east, on the west, western portion of the screen there, left more, is Estonia and Latvia. Estonia and Latvia right there. Those border Russian territory, and those are both NATO members. Russia has borders with NATO countries.
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine is not a NATO country.
Yeah.
So Putin's whole thing about I have to get in here to push NATO back, they're on your doorstep. They are closer to Moscow. NATO is closer to Moscow in Latvia than they ever would be in Ukraine. We were not stationing troops. There were no NATO bases in Ukraine. We did provide some training.
That was his whole thing, right?
One of many. Yeah. But when you look at some of his more recent statements, his interview with Tucker a few months back, he didn't bring up NATO like at all. Right?
That's what I'm saying. He's the master manipulator. People have got to stop sleeping on him.
So like if NATO is the big concern, you do have 2 NATO countries that you share a border with and that you shared a border with before this war started.
What's in Ukraine that's so valuable?
I think a lot of it has to go back to it is considered the breadbasket of Europe. There's a lot of agriculture there.
For real?
Yep. A lot of agriculture.
Okay.
In fact, there's a historic piece there, and I'm going to mix this up, so comment section be kind, but Holodomor, I believe is what it's called, where in the 20s and 30s, there was a lot of grain shipped out of Ukraine back into the Soviet Union, and millions died. And there's kind of a persistent issue there. It was a borderline Holocaust of the Ukrainian people. But in terms of resources, not as much as I think it is. There you go, major producer of stuff. Yeah,
of this stuff.
I think the bigger thing here is simply the historical aspect of it's our territory. We're going to take it back. I think it's more in that sense. I think it's closer to just like raw imperialism.
You think it's like
if
a
I'm being
pride
honest.
thing?
Yeah, I think it's imperial Russia type stuff.
He does always harken back to that.
Yeah,
Doesn't he like miss the days of old with the czars and stuff like that? Is that true, or is that something that's
As
made
part,
up?
some of his speeches, he regularly cites them.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of little things I'm not going to be able to remember top of mind where like he has certain statues made or commemorates certain events. And people are like, that was in the 1600s. What are we doing? And like,
He's like, yeah, it's cool,
tied
right?
to- yeah.
yeah. It's cool, right? Yeah.
That's another thing. It's hard for us to relate, I think, where he's like, there's a sense of Putin trying to like cement his legacy in a way. And like, it's hard. I think it's hard for all of us, probably for just about anyone in the United States, to think about that. Like, as part of my legacy, I'm going to take northern Mexico, right? Like, huh?
I mean, he's got a legacy, though. He's the longest serving ruler of the country, right? There's no one who served as long as him.
Of Russia, at least. Yeah.
Of Russia. The czars, they didn't serve that long. I mean, not,
Well, you got to get back
not individually.
of modern Russia, post-Cold War Russia, for sure.
I guess what I'm getting at is that it seems like he has like an unquenchable thirst, and we struggle to understand that,
I do think we struggle to understand him. in a lot
right?
of ways,
Like
yeah.
we're like eventually he'll get tired, and he's like, no, I
Right.
won't. And like everything we do, they're like, oh, he looks sick. He looks. I don't buy any of that. That's just us trying to be like, it's okay. We're almost there. This check we're stroking out to Z money will be all right. It's just softening that wound of like, because the biggest problem that we have failed with on the Russia and Ukraine war, in my opinion, is how we have made it connect to the American people. And as nicely as I can think to say this, I don't want to hear about it when we have like real-time problems in America. We have legit issues. And I know it's a different fund, it's a different budget. I don't care. That can come here. Like roads are collapsing, bridges are collapsing. Like there's homeless people right outside this studio. Like veterans continue to fight for issues left and right. Like what else am I missing? Name some other bad problems that are happening. Like so many different things. I don't want to see any more money, regardless of what it's for, leave this country. Right? I'm not saying we got to close ourselves off, but we do have to like, I don't know, start with that first. Is that so weird? I don't know.
No, I can't disagree with any of that. Where I sit, and then the reason I talk about this stuff is because I kind of where I start with all of this is I think we're able to do things in the United States that other people can't do because of our position in the world. And
For sure.
so we need to maintain that if we want to continue this way of life. And this is very broad brush, so bear with me. A part of that is making sure that crap like this doesn't happen, where Russia just invades a country, starts killing people, shutting off.
Yeah.
So to me, that's where the dots connect of we can do things in the United States because of the footprint we have around the world and how we're able to keep adversaries at bay. So in that sense, it's connected, but I also 100% understand how it looks to send a check to a foreign country when we walked by a homeless person on the way in here today.
Or we couldn't do it to Maui.
Couldn't do it to Maui. Can't do it to other things. I mean,
Yeah,
like
but,
there's
I mean, I agree with everything that Preston said as well, man. Like the moment you just let Russia do whatever they want, then every other
it'll never
country-
stop. Yeah.
So
And I understand that, which is why I personally always advocated for us to leave bases in Afghanistan, which we have a precedent for. Any country, Germany, Japan, anywhere we've been, we've left bases there for that exact reason, to not create a power vacuum that has no end in sight. Like we could have just left like Bagram, Kandahar Airfield and been done. Like make them permanent duty rotation stations. It's pretty easy.
Ugh.
I know, but what's the alternative?
Yeah.
The alternative is like now the Middle East is just
Now the Taliban own Afghanistan.
it's so, and they're going to get more. They're going to grow. They're not going to stop. They're never going to stop. And so, and we did that. We literally, whatever. But
I think the messaging could have been a lot better, still can be a lot better about Ukraine, because I think we can do both. We are, to a degree, doing both. We are still figuring things out here in the United States and still sending equipment to Ukraine. There's kind of a middle ground there, and this, I think, has to do with the messaging, where we are sending money to help support their economy and keep it actually functioning. But the majority of what we're sending is in the form of military aid that we then purchase through America, right? So like there's a little bit of full circle, but I don't think that messaging has been good. And it's also not immediate. Immediate is a $sign going to another country, and in 2 years, that money comes back through a factory and jobs. That's not a clear one-to-one.
No, and it's rough. It's rough seeing him like show up to things, be called Putin, and then like just leave with a check for a few B's or actually it's trillions or billions. I can't
billions. Yeah,
it's just billions. Okay, sorry. Finally, we're keeping it down to billions. It's just hard. Like I don't know any other way to describe it because again, it doesn't seem like he has a clear plan in place, and there's no way to like stop this. Neither does Putin. I mean, Putin will never stop. And I think that we severely undersell that because it makes it easier for everyone. It makes it more palatable for everyone to be like, eventually he'll stop, which it's just not ever going to happen.
What's interesting is to see some of our allies in the East there on this map right here, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, they're ready. They're ready to go. Like
Into Russia?
We're sitting here just to get rid of Russia. We're sitting here talking about like, we misread him and he's going a little far and what's he going to do next? Those countries there are so hawkish right now of just panicked. They just watched somebody rob their neighbor, burn down their neighbor's house.
Yep.
And we're sitting here a couple states away saying, well, wait a minute. Are we sure they're going to do more? And they're like, I don't care. Did you see this?
Yeah.
Stop him now.
Well, that is understandable. But then what happens if we get rid of him? What's behind door number one?
Oh, yeah, nobody. Yeah.
I mean, that's terrifying.
It was about a year ago that conversation was happening when
What's his name?
Prigozhin was marching on Moscow.
Do you think he's still alive? Do you think there's any chance?
I know you're
at all?
trying hard on this.
Do you think
Did
there's
you see
any
the picture
chance?
from?
Yeah.
I sent that to you.
Yeah. Do you think there's any chance at all he's still alive?
No.
Not at all.
I think that's a loose end for Putin.
But he's known for faking his death. This guy.
Prigozhin?
Isn't that true?
No.
Or is it just the disguises?
No, I don't think he is the disguises. I don't think he was known for faking his death. I think the known for faking his death was because so many people said, I think he faked his death.
Okay.
As in he never actually did it. You
That's
know what
funny.
I mean?
I mean, it seemed foolhardy. It seemed too perfect, right? Like he's like, I'm going to go talk to me. We're going to figure it out. Me and Putin, we're going to figure it out. I'm going to hop on this really slow plane. I need my entire cabinet with me. Everyone all in this one thing. Nobody looked too much into it. Like we're just gonna go there.
And as soon as we're in Russian airspace, we're
like no trade craft. A guy who's literally like gone around the world and just left holes in it, and then all of a sudden he just forgets all that. A dog doesn't hunt to me.
at the very least, a lot of his senior lieutenants were killed. So they're still mourning him on Russian social media channels. They praise him.
Is he like their Masood? Like their...
Not Masood. I'm trying to think of I don't want to make a comparison to an American general, but I'm going to. Do not take this the way. You know how General Mattis has fans?
Yeah.
People are like, I'd fight with that guy no matter what.
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
Okay.
Where
Do
people are
people
like,
still
that's
feel
a
that way?
soldier kind of thing.
Do people still feel that way about him?
About Mattis?
Oh, yeah. He kind
Not
of
anymore.
dabbled.
In his defense, he did the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, idiot.
He took the job in the government after spending a career in the government. I don't know why. I'm sure it definitely didn't have anything to do with those board seats he picked up along the way, which all of them do. Every single one of them do. And to be honest, I don't really blame them. You want to get paid $250 a year to just vote once?
Have your name on a website?
Yeah. It's a pretty good gig. But he was only really, his lore was so strong during the war. But when he I remember I read a story once. He was in the Pentagon, and somebody interviewed him while he brought his laundry to do his laundry at the Pentagon because it was free or there was a service. And I was like, all right, this is kind of a sad story. Because he'd done so much and given so much of his life to where he literally didn't have a life outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, that's the cost. That's the cost of being a warrior your whole life. You have not much to show for.
40 years in uniform or something.
Yeah. He just got married. Literally just got married. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just, and then Trump said he fired him. I don't know if he fired him or not, or if he stepped down. I would never take those jobs. Those are insane jobs.
The political appointee stuff.
Yeah. That's just, you're just asking, especially after a career in the military. What are you doing, dude?
Mm-hmm.
Just, you were a general. You were the guy. Just chill. Go home. Isn't it good? You've got enough influence. You can still call anybody. I don't get it.
The former commandant and superintendent of West Point, General Caslin, Bob Caslin, he retired as a 3-star.
You call him Bob? You guys close?
Close with his son. His son's a friend.
You
We went
rub
to
your
school
ring
together.
and you summon him?
But he
That's that network
He
we're
retired.
talking about.
Had some issue. I can't remember. At South Carolina, he was going to be the president there. university, something happened, and he left. And now he fishes, smokes cigars, and I think he's using his GI Bill to get a master's in like military history.
Hell yeah. That's what you're supposed to do.
Just like hanging out.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not run for office.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. I don't understand it. Like,
Yeah.
dude, I've been looking at the sun for too long. It's time to rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much have you looked into like Trump's, I guess, opinion or what he wants to do if he wins the presidency? Like, what's his plan on Ukraine?
Not clear, because it's been all over the map. And right now, I think what we're hearing a lot of is campaigning.
Yeah.
And for any issue, who knows what actually translates. Gut feeling is that we're not going to see a lot change. A lot has been kind of, first off, it's pretty bipartisan. You do have, in terms of the folks that are outspoken against no more aid, it tends to be a small group on the right. You've got a lot of moderates that are still voting to support Ukraine, or people closer to the center. So I think for the most part, it's still politically viable.
It's very politically charged. The left is saying this, the right's saying that.
How quickly do you think he tries to negotiate a ceasefire with Putin?
I hope he starts that talk
Day one.
I hope he starts the talk right away. I don't know that there's a lot of room for that to happen right now. For any conflict, I hope that there's always open communication. I get a little frustrated when he talks about how I have the answer, because for fuck's sake, there's people dying today. If you have an answer to get this thing resolved, a global war, not global war, a European war, let's figure it out. Don't wait until you're in office. But I don't think it's quite that simple, just because Putin has, if we have the map here, again, Putin made it extra complicated. Ukraine does not want to cede any of their territory. Ukraine also does not have the ability right now, from what I can tell, to take any territory back. If you zoom in on the right side there, Blas, the kind of right along the lines of where it's red. Yep. Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporozhia, that whole area, Russia annexed it. They have it's written now into Russian law that is Russian territory. So is Russia going to give back part of their country to Ukraine? So they made this so much harder.
They're so smart. This is what I'm talking about. Like their plan is clear. And like this is why I worry, because we don't even have like an alternative plan. Like our alternative plan should be Ukraine annexing. Like we need to be doing, they need to be doing stuff like that, but there is no clear guidance at all. It's just this is just a war of attrition, right? So that's really what it comes down to. Ukraine being backed by mainly us and other countries versus Russia.
Who can fight longer?
And I think Russia can. Because ultimately, Russia is unified in their approach. Ukraine is being supported by us mainly. And with elections and everything coming up, that's all it really takes to turn the tide on that.
But you also there's so many different angles here. And this is why it's so frustrating when you narrow it down on social media who's winning. And I never answer that question, because I don't think there's a real way to answer it. Because like yes, you have Western military equipment against Russian military equipment. You have Russian soldiers against Ukrainian soldiers. But then you look at the economy piece of it. You've got the Russian economy against like all of Europe and the United States and like portions of like the rest of the world, because there's other countries outside of NATO that are also contributing. So that's a piece. Ukraine doesn't really have to worry about maintaining their economy during this war in the way that Russia does. So does that mean that they can give more? Is Russia's breaking point sooner? There's all of these little pieces to that. Is Ukraine, my guess is that Ukraine is going to be willing to sacrifice a higher percentage of their population to retain sovereignty than Russia is going to be willing to sacrifice to take portions of Ukraine. My gut says that's the case. I don't know if it's actually true. So it's not this one-to-one playing field on any of this stuff. And I don't know, in some senses, Ukraine has the advantage. We can manufacture so much stuff here and ship it there. Yeah. A lot of the stuff Russia's trying to manufacture right now, they can't access parts. They're having to find workarounds. That plays into it somehow. I just don't know how that plays into the end of the war in 6, 9, 18, 24 months.
So if they're claiming that all this land that they've taken in Ukraine, like what are they doing there? Like, are they just occupying it? Yeah. Essentially?
Yeah. It depends. Ukraine says it's occupied. Russia actually refers to it as liberated, which makes this war nice and confusing.
Yeah.
But they're even outside of that, they haven't fully taken. There's Kherson in the south. Then you have Zaporozhia, Luhansk, or Donetsk, and then Luhansk moving south to north. they haven't occupied those full oblasts or districts, if you will, states kind of. So there's territories now inside of the Russian Federation, technically, that Russia does not have military control over, that Ukraine still occupies. So when you get into a ceasefire negotiation, how does that shake out? Ukraine's not going to cede territory that Russia hasn't taken.
No.
They also don't want to give up those elections that they had where they asked people to vote. We've been in the military, right? So Russia took that territory by force, occupied it, and then said, we're going to vote to see who you want to own this territory. It was like 98% voted in favor of joining Russia.
Well,
right?
dude, that sounds
all.
fair and balanced, dude. Obviously, that's the way most elections turn out.
They were all over 90% for what it's worth. Like, look, it's a shocking result. So
Yeah, weird. I guess this is Russia now.
So you got to dial it back then, right? Because then Russia's going to say, look, we had an election. These people want to be with us. And most of the world is like, that's insane. You can't actually take that with any value.
Right.
At least have like a genuine election.
They're
but
so
who's
good
going
at
to move
it.
back there? Who's going to move back into this
No
occupied
one.
area
No one.
to cast that vote? Exactly.
No one.
So
They just understand the 3D chess moves. That's and so I don't know.
So if we're just going on paper and looking on a map, I mean, Russia's taken land from Ukraine. Ukraine hasn't taken anything from Russia other than casualties on
the green areas, if you zoom out a little bit, the green areas are territory that Russia took at some point in the war and Ukraine has since recaptured.
Yeah. That's
Now
not
that,
nothing.
now that northern portion there was largely, it kind of just fell apart. That was the initial Russian advance. They just got out over their skis and for the most part withdrew from the north. But that area in the east and the south, that was Ukrainians' offensive. That was Ukraine's offensive in 2022, fall of 2022.
It's just so weird too that like what I love so much about your content and what you're doing right now with all this stuff is showing the real-time innovations that are happening.
Oh, it's wild.
Like the Frankenstein tanks, the cages that are being put on vehicles for drones. Like drones are like in real time shaping the battlefield.
Yeah.
And it's gnarly. It's absolutely gnarly, especially some of the stuff that's on like what is it? Real combat footage. I mean, I don't even know how that's allowed even on Reddit, some of it. I mean, look at that. What is that, a boat?
It's a boat with a drone cover screen. They're just latching those onto everything.
So like what? It'll hit it and then not blow it through or whatever, or just
so
bounce off?
Most of what they're outfitting these drones with are small munitions because they're commercial drones. So they're not designed to carry a lot of weight.
Yeah.
So, RPG-7 warheads, which are kind of on the heavier end of what they can carry.
Yeah.
Or then grenades, 40 mic grenades at times. Not a lot of penetrating power with those when it hits a screen. So if it can hit that screen, think of the RPG net we had on our vehicles. Right?
It stops.
It dissipates
Yeah.
largely. That's kind of what
Moves
they're
the
going
energy.
for here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Moves the energy. And all things being equal, it's not really that hard of a lift. Like, putting like a roll cage basically on top of a tank or a Jeep or a boat.
It's all cheap, which is the crazy part. To put together one of those drones with an RPG-7 is, arguably less than $200 total. So then but then the solution is also cheap. Some sheet metal.
Where are they getting all these drones from, dude?
Online, Amazon.
Just Amazon?
DJI. China. A lot of Chinese drones killing Russians.
I was about to
these days.
say, can't someone be like, let's stop sending these to Ukraine or Russia, whoever's, they're both buying them, right?
Yeah. The drone innovation, largely what we've seen is Russia's using more military standardization like we would.
Yeah.
Ukraine didn't have that. So they were like, we need to figure this out, and started building these small FPV style drones, taping warheads to them. They're building these thousands at a time. So Russia eventually was like, oh, okay, we're going to do the same thing. So they're both using very similar drones at this point. But for the most part, Ukraine has kind of driven a lot of the innovation just out of necessity.
Are they targeting just military assets, or are they targeting locals as well? Civilian population? Because both sides, it feels like.
They both say everyone's targeting civilians, right? I want to come back to the drone thing here in a second.
Go ahead.
On that. All right, the drones, they're hunting people.
Stop.
All right, so you look at these drones and you think that this is just footage of like, there's a tank, they're going to hit the tank, but the drones have been integrated into the overall aspect of warfare. So what you're seeing is an initial artillery barrage guided by maybe a drone spotting for it. And then as the troops get out to maneuver, you've got these smaller FPV drones picking off individual soldiers. So a soldier comes out of a trench to move to another tree line, they're picking him off individually with a drone. After a cluster munition goes off and takes out a Russian supply point. They might fire artillery to hit anything that's out in the open, and then they send in 5 or 6 drones to take out those that might be survive. Like, it's insane. It's layered on top of one another.
The psychological aspects have to be off the charts.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's
an orchestra firepower.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, like, oh, it's done.
And it's no different than what we've done.
I can't imagine it, to be honest. I guess that's why shotguns and trench guns are making a comeback, right?
Yep, they're shooting them down with shotguns at times. But that little birdie, if you miss it,
it's gonna get you.
Boom.
That's crazy. It's crazy. I can't even imagine being like, oh, we survived the artillery, and then like drones, like 5 of them. That's a wrap.
There's videos. I mean, you can look it up.
Yeah, I've seen them. I didn't know
like
they were
guys trying to run away from drones and like trying to hit them with sticks. One last week, a dude hit one out of the air with a fish. He was a fisherman. Came at him in a boat and he's lobbed a fish, knocked the drone out of the sky.
Really.
Yeah.
The things you see every day have
It's
to
wild, man.
baffle the mind.
Yeah.
How do you find all this stuff?
Telegram.
Telegram?
Telegram is pretty dirty. Yeah.
What do you mean it's pretty dirty? Like there's no rules?
No sensors, no rules.
People just send it to you, or you just go searching? You've got a few
channels.
You've got a few channels.
yeah.
You don't have to say them. I'm just curious.
It's like Twitter in a sense, but there's like pages.
It's like Twitter and Reddit together, right? Essentially.
Kind of.
But you have to follow people, but you can't find stuff.
Right.
Very hard to find. Yeah.
Yeah. But you have to go
Also-
to like Preston's Telegram.
Yeah.
And
If I
then-
had one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I started one and then I had to delete it because a lot of those YouTube bots say message me on Telegram for life-changing financial advice.
Yeah.
And I had a Telegram that I just was using with my picture on it to just like consume information. I had to delete it because I started to get messages from people like,
Using
what,
a VPN?
what was it that you wanted me to tell you? Or, that kind of stuff.
Are you using?
No, never.
Oh, you got to use a VPN.
I do at times, but there's trying to, Russia hosted some big military event, like showcasing all their new equipment.
Yeah.
And they were live streaming it. I was like, well, I want to watch that. But it's blocked. So I had to use VPN to get that.
Yeah.
I love those like weird show of force things. I have a video saved up, a bunch of like guys in Korea just doing crazy stuff. Like they have like nunchucks on fire and
Yeah,
like
walking across glass.
yeah,
because
and they're just like it has nothing to do with anything.
that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy.
Wow.
If there's one thing, I've learned from just like being a detective, man. It's like, got to use a VPN, man.
Yeah, you got to use a VPN, dude. It's a very potent network. I think is that what it stands for?
That's it right there. Yeah.
Yeah, very potent network.
I've heard that.
What is it called? I can't remember what it's something.
Virtual
proxy-
private network.
Yes,
Virtual private
virtual
network.
private network.
I was we all know what we're talking about here.
Yeah, professionals.
Maybe we'll get a VPN sponsor out of this. That would be sick. Because I know what those are. No, okay, so you're pulling from multiple different resources constantly. Do you ever feel pressure to not talk about it? In the sense of like, it's just repetitive and there's no like inside. Like, does it ever weigh on you to be like, maybe I shouldn't share this because it just doesn't, not a bias,
Yeah.
but it's just not, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I actually thought you were going to go a different direction with that. I thought you were going to say, do you ever not talk about something because it might not be good for like one side or the other?
I mean, kinda, because it's war and there is no good side.
Right.
And we both, what I wanted to kind of get through that is like that there is no clear outcome that's good for anyone.
Yeah.
And it'll have to be some form of compromise to make the violence end. But like, do you ever feel like, I just don't want to talk about that, but you have to, like the responsibility or the burden of knowledge that you have, does it ever weigh on you?
Probably. I get tired, feel burnout. I don't know if it's necessarily the type of content or just the workload at times. So I'll take days of just not doing anything at all.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would be the same if I was covering new ice cream flavors and just really into it. You know?
We did both choose really narrow lanes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe it would be different if it was more lighter material. But I do step back every so often. And I don't know. At the same time, I'm fascinated with this stuff. I don't want to say I like it. I'm fascinated with it.
You said you like it.
But I don't. Like, I don't
I think you like the truth is what you like.
I like studying it. I like learning from it.
Yeah.
Like, I like the conversation we just had about how drones are now being used in war. Like, I like those conversations.
Yeah.
I don't like what they do to people when they go boom.
Obviously, yeah, for
But
sure.
the advances in war tactics is essentially.
Yeah.
what
I mean,
you're
it's
alluding
happening
to,
in real
yeah.
time. I mean,
Yeah.
who could have anticipated something like that? I mean, no one really.
There's not. There have been things I haven't talked about, mostly because it's like hard to figure out. Early on in the war in Gaza, there was a lot of kind of atrocity porn, if you will. coming out of what happened on October 7th. And I didn't talk about any of that. And I think there could be value in discussing it or not. I think at times it was overblown and exaggerated to try to justify some of the initial actions in Gaza. But other times there's video footage of some of the awful things that happen. And it's like, is it good to share that or not? I don't know. Like on the one hand, opens eyes to like, this is a real thing. I chose not to.
It hasn't really been good for anybody who's decided to speak on that. And I say that because, I mean, Candace Owens is a perfect example. When she spoke on it, I mean, it essentially led to her split with the Daily Wire.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing good that's going to come from
some, especially that footage at the beginning. It wouldn't have done a lot to talk about it. The value, if that's the right word here, is to show. And I mean, I guess I probably could have shared it on X, but every other platform it would have been taken down. So it's a little bit of like, is there another conversation to have or a different way to?
Well, and speaking of that, because I wanted to shift on that because you're covering this as well. Is it the war in Israel? I don't know what to call it.
Hamas-Israel war.
The
war
Hamas-Israel war is so charged.
Confusing.
And confusing. And just however much people cared about Ukraine isn't even close to how much people care about this. And I think it definitely started with the way that this conflict started, with like people being like at an EDM festival just enjoying their life, and then all of a sudden all hell breaks loose. And please, as I know, I don't know what my question is. I mean, walk me through it. Like, for anyone who doesn't know what's happening, myself included, high level.
October 7th, Hamas kicked off a
2020
historic attack. 2024, or I guess 23, historic attack, breached the wire out of the Gaza Strip, moved into Israel, killed around 1,500 Israelis. I think the number moved a couple times as they were still finding bodies. Some were captured. 1,000 to 1,500 in that range. You're giving me a look. Was it different than that?
No. I'm
Okay,
just,
gotcha.
I'm shocked. I didn't know. I'd hoped it was less than that.
The number moved a couple times, which is just one of the aspects of the controversy around all this. Israel pretty quickly started a bombing campaign into Gaza, hitting everything there. They had, look, we're trying to manage intelligence around the world, figure out where Islamic State might be in 19 different countries. Israel is pretty hyper-focused on a few areas. One of them is the Gaza Strip, which isn't very big. So the amount of intelligence they have and assets overhead meant that when they said it's go time to hit targets, they had a lot of targets ready to go.
Whoa.
Bombing campaign was pretty intense for quite a while, eventually pushed in on the ground, and now we're, 7 months into this. I don't have the Israeli death toll top of mind right now. A couple hundred, 400 maybe Israeli soldiers have been killed. Since October 7th, very few Israeli civilians. There have been continued rocket launches coming from Gaza into Israel, and there's been a lot of tens of thousands of displaced Israelis in the northern part of the country that have not gone home now because Hezbollah continues to fire rockets.
Well, it looks like the death total is up to 1,400 for Israel.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Hezbollah, Hamas.
Yep.
Break it down.
Yeah. So Hamas is a Sunni group. They are based in Gaza. It's a political military organization that has run the Gaza Strip since, I want to say 2007, been around for quite a while. They have a militant arm. This is a group that runs the hospitals and universities. Again, think politics, governing entity. Then they have something called the Qassam Brigades, which is their militant arm.
This is Hamas still.
Hamas.
Okay.
Yeah. Gaza. Hamas is primarily in Gaza. They have very small elements elsewhere, but when you hear Hamas, think Gaza Strip.
Got it.
Very small portion. If you pull up live UA map, actually, this is a good map resource here. Again, Sunni group, kind of an outlier in this whole axis of resistance, as they have become called, or as they have named themselves. When you go up north from Israel into Lebanon, you run into Hezbollah, which is another kind of political military entity, kind of a sub-state actor, if you will. It's not Lebanon, but they have one of the largest like rocket arsenals in the world. The ads on this page are awful, but you can click out of them and hopefully they stay away. But this is actually a pretty decent map to show a little comparison of the few areas. Bottom left there, you have, man, that's going to give me a headache. Same thing. If you want to find a way to get rid of the icons, the key, maybe you can do that, clean it up a little bit. But bottom left, there's an eye with a line through it. Third down, click that, dude. There we go. So bottom left on the screen here is the Gaza Strip.
Okay.
See it kind of circled there in blue?
Oh, it just went away, boss.
Not anymore. I don't see it. Was there? So you got...
There it is. It's on the screen again.
If you go down a little bit on the screen, you'll see Gaza. Keep going. That's the West Bank in blue. And there's the Gaza Strip. It's tiny. Bottom left part of the screen.
That's it?
It borders, west, it borders the Mediterranean. North and east, it borders Israel. And kind of southwest, it borders Egypt. Major issue they've had in fighting down there have been the tunnels.
What about the tunnels?
Non-stop tunnels. Like legit tunnels.
Who dug the tunnels?
Hamas.
Hamas dug the tunnels.
We've seen some videos of them using some of their tunneling equipment. They're extensive throughout the
And that's
Strip.
verified.
Yeah, there's videos about daily coming out showing the tunnels.
Because people were like, the tunnels aren't real, the tunnels are real. And then they're using, is it true that they're using civilian buildings as like a way to move troops in and out through the tunnels?
Yeah, similar to what we saw, especially in Iraq, not as much in Afghanistan, but it's an insurgency to a degree. So you're seeing, the normal. They're in hospitals to a degree. They're in schools to a degree. As soon as that school is evacuated, there was just a UN aid facility that was raided this last week. They found a bunch of weapons in there, probably because when you're looking at a map, like, oh, don't strike the UN facility. So it's kind of a safe spot for Hamas to use.
Yeah. And they're being aided by Hezbollah.
Yeah, so zoom out a little bit and go north. Sensitivity is pretty tough there, huh? Mm-hmm. Serious. There you go. Lebanon on the northern the globe view. Lebanon on the northern border there. Right at the bottom of your screen, that kind of dark blue area.
So who's funding all of this? Who funds Hezbollah?
A lot of the funding comes from Iran. So this is the proxy network strategy via Iran. Hezbollah is kind of their darling, if you will.
Okay.
Hezbollah is massive, man. Arguably 100,000 troops, hundreds of thousands of rockets and missiles. It's a significant force. They've had special operations forces in Syria fighting Islamic State for going on 10 years now.
Okay.
So Hezbollah is actually like no joke. Hamas, think insurgency. Hezbollah is going to be much more of like a conventional style war. It's going to be really rough.
Okay.
But the funding, training, equipping to a degree largely emanates from Iran.
Why? Why do they want to do this? Why are they
their strategy of a couple different arguments, but area denial is a big one. Iran wants to be able to have influence over this area, the Middle East. And what they've been able to do is kind of fund and equip different groups that are loosely aligned with them to a degree, just enough aligned to where they can call on them to kind of act on their behalf at times. So the Iranian groups are the ones firing rockets at U.S. troops in Iraq, Syria, and Jordan. Those were Iranian-backed militias. They were all Iraqis, but to kind of get a message across from Iran, they are able to use this loose amalgamation of groups that are then they learned from what we did in Iraq in 2003. It's very hard for us to beat back the 17 different militias. How do you do that?
Yeah.
So if we take out one or two of the militias, which we'll never be able to do entirely, they still have 16 more.
So their whole goal is just to kind of seize power in the Middle East as a whole.
Yeah, Iran has a lot of control. There's arguments that Iraq is essentially an Iranian vassal state at this point. They have so much control over Iraq.
That makes sense.
A lot of control over Lebanon. Their control over Gaza and West Bank was exerted largely through Hamas. Down in Yemen, they've a very close relationship with the Houthis. So they're taking over the western portion of Yemen.
Somebody told me to ask you about the Houthis.
Cool.
Tell me about the Houthis.
Pretty nasty group. Civil war down in Yemen. It's been going on for quite a while now. A lot of people dead. Houthis are one of the groups that came out of it, pushing back against the Yemenis government. The Yemen government. Yemenis doesn't sound right. The Houthis took over a bunch of territory in the western part of the country. They're an extremist group. Their motto on their flag is death to Israel, death to the United States, a curse upon the Jews, victory to Islam, something like that. Like that's written out.
Yes. Hope you guys are enjoying the episode. If you want to continue to hear more stories like this and to help us grow the podcast, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and to also drop a rating and review. Every bit helps. Thank you so much. Now let's get back to the episode.
overall. There's a UN report in 2022 talking about how they used rape to purify their female prisoners.
Shut up, for real?
Yep. Child soldiers, I think like over 10,000 kids under the age of 14 have been killed in the war. Houthi, Houthi.
Where are they based out of?
Yemen.
Yemen.
They're nasty. They're the ones that have been slinging missiles and drones at everybody in the Red Sea. But a lot of that equipment comes directly from Iran.
Iran's just sowing seeds of discontent all over the Middle East.
Yep. They've got their, we
Because
call it
eventually,
kind of a
if
proxy strategy.
they push enough people out, then they come in.
Be the key player.
Yeah. And then they're able to control all the resources, everything. Interesting.
And again, look at it from Iran's perspective. We had a really hard time figuring out how to beat back insurgencies in Iraq. So if they look at that, is their takeaway like, you know what we should, if your perspective is the U.S. experience in Iraq from 2003 to whenever we left in like 11 or 12, whatever that day was, or the big withdrawal, your takeaway should not be, let me see what I can do to take on the U.S. military in a conventional sense.
Yeah.
Because that was over fast.
Yeah.
We kicked ass doing that.
Yeah.
The takeaway should be, let's make this really hard for them to figure out who the bad guys are, who the good guys are, and hard to target and have a bunch of them. That's exactly what they've done.
Use their ignorance.
They're very smart.
Yeah.
And it's very challenging to beat back. And they're, you know.
So all this is happening. Do you feel that the current war in Israel is basically, it's just a telling sign of the times for that whole area? It seems to be like a key indicator of how unstable that entire region
As in like
is.
it's ready to go.
Yeah.
Maybe. There's some, if we want to take some positives away from this, it's that the war hasn't escalated yet. The war in the north, Hezbollah and Israel, every single day, they're striking each other back and forth.
For real?
Every day. Drones, missiles, rockets, airstrikes. But there hasn't been a ground incursion. All things considered, very few Israeli citizens in the north have died. Only a couple soldiers and a lot of Hezbollah. Like over 200 Hezbollah fighters at this point have been killed. But compared to what it could be, that's not bad. A full-scale invasion in either direction would likely lead to tens of thousands of casualties right away. The fact that hasn't happened,
Yeah.
you know, maybe they're not ready, or maybe they know that would be a bridge too far, and
What do you think about all of the support of Gaza, or not Gaza, of Palestine? That is Palestine, right?
Yeah, it's gotten messy.
What do you think of that? It's like there was a guy walking, I don't want to say what road it was. He was just, I saw him with like a flag wrapped around him, and he was like filming people. I just kept driving.
It's gotten sloppy, it's gotten messy, and it's overlapped in ways that I think sometimes, unfortunately, is intentional. But there's some. I don't mean this in the way it's going to come across, but there's a little bit of ignorance with part of it as well. There's, from my perspective,
please explain.
The Palestinian people are in a very tough spot. It's tragic what they
open
are
air
to deal
prison.
with.
They've got that sentence is sealed up.
They cannot go anywhere, and they're in the middle of a war zone.
For sure.
No matter, even if every single airstrike and every single bullet, everything that Israel does is perfect, they're still living in the middle of a war zone without running water, without access to electricity. And so that's all awful. And I can understand 100% supporting the Palestinian people. There has been a bleed over, unfortunately, at times to where people are more openly supportive of Hamas and the Houthis. And I think that's a hard line that should be drawn. And
can you please explain to people why they don't need to support Hamas and Houthis?
Inside of Gaza, there's a lot of Palestinians that don't support Hamas. They just don't have another solution right now.
I understand that.
So yeah, so what I'm saying is, like, you don't have to, for somebody that wants to see peace for the Palestinian people, you don't have to support Hamas, who they were elected back in 2007 with not a ton of the vote. They rule with an iron fist. They still today are killing, torturing, and executing people that are speaking out against them, or working with the Zionists at times. Who knows if they actually are or aren't. It's a brutal group. If you look at what they did on October 7th, that is not what you want from a governing entity.
Yeah.
It's awful, awful stuff. There can be, I would imagine, a future for the Palestinian people that does not include a terrorist organization running them. There's the Palestinian Authority that runs the West Bank. There's a lot of pushback that they are kind of just a puppet for Israel. But it's an option that is not a terrorist organization who I would argue right now Hamas doesn't actually care about the Palestinian people and that more civilian casualties is good for them. Is that who you want in charge? Like, if you care about the Palestinian people, I would argue that you should not want Hamas there.
Yeah. So why are people so fervently just like supporting it? Is it because they don't understand that aspect of it?
I think there was a time where that was the case. I saw people right out the gate waving Hamas flags. I don't think they knew what they were doing on like the 8th and 9th, things like that. I think there has been.
Do you think it had anything to do with the initial attack?
As in they support that?
As in like Israel's initial attack and them saying like, hey, that was too much.
Yes.
That's inhumane.
Yeah. I think that we have a hard time with this. It has to be one side or the other. So if I don't like what Israel's doing, who's the one I can go to? And it's Hamas. And I think we're missing that because it's complicated. How do you find a solution that is not Hamas, but is not Israel? And Hamas, look, they're the ones taking action right now, is what a lot of people would say. They're the ones doing the thing. They're walking the walk. So they are getting the attention. But
you reap what you sow, essentially.
Yeah, man, it's a bad group. It's a bad group in a lot of ways.
And they're in charge. Just so I'm clear and I understand, they're the ones in charge.
Governing entity in Gaza.
Okay.
That's why when we say when we say Israel war versus Hamas, that's it.
I'm just trying to make it clear for anyone because that's when people are saying, when I hear people say they support Palestine, even though I understand what they're saying, I don't think they understand what they mean. Right. And you've just helped to make that clear, right? I mean, that's because they're by default saying they support Hamas. Is that accurate to say?
When they say they support Palestine? Not default.
No,
I would put this in a comparison of 15 years ago or whatever. I support the Afghan people. I do not support the Taliban.
Correct.
Yes.
And there can be a solution. Maybe this is a bad example because we dropped the ball on this one, but there can be a solution for the Afghan people to live in peace that does not require the Taliban to be there.
Okay. So now I understand. I was wrong.
That might be the worst possible example.
No. I mean, it makes total sense to me.
Now that the Taliban are in charge of Afghanistan.
Yeah. Well,
but aren't they? Isn't Hamas in charge in Palestine?
Not on paper. Yeah, but they don't have any control right now.
They don't have any control right now.
They're an insurgency, hiding, shooting, sniping.
They're labeled as an insurgency.
So they're just making everything. It's such a charged thing. It's like actors are talking about it. Everyone's like I don't know. I don't know what the end result is. I mean, like this is something that's been going on for a long time. You know, everyone. I know there was the Accords that happened that were like a big deal in the 90s.
Camp David Accords.
Was it the Camp David Accords?
Been a handful.
They've done this a few times where they've found peaceful solutions, but like this doesn't feel like there's any good solution at all.
I tend to have somewhat of a global audience, if you will, largely coming from the war in Ukraine. So there's a lot of Europeans.
Yeah.
And what I have noticed in my content is it seems like fewer people are very interested in Gaza compared with Ukraine, but those few that are hyper interested, if that makes sense. Nobody is casually following the war in Gaza. People are checking in once a week to see or once a month, what's going on in Ukraine right now. Nobody is casually checking in on Gaza. They're either in or they're a little bit of this is messy. I'm not even sure. I feel like if I look at the wrong thing, I'm going to get labeled.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it's all or nothing.
You have to be all or nothing. And I think war is the worst thing that could happen to people. And it's, humanity's greatest failure. And it's just weird to see protests and stuff here in America. I saw something where I don't know where it was in California, some local legislature, they authorized a ceasefire in Palestine. And I was like,
oh, good.
What the fuck is this? But that's people's, I don't know if Palestine heard that somewhere in California.
Israel didn't hear, yeah.
But that's the thing. Even in these smaller levels, people were, it's become a thing where you have to say something. You have to say you support a side. And unlike Russia and Ukraine, that
hasn't been a thing, right?
Am I making sense here? But because these people were crying, they're we did it. And I'm you didn't do shit. You didn't do shit. You're not involved. You're not special. You're nothing. You're actually worse. You just made anyone who wants to be involved with this look weird because you're saying that you in America went to your local alderman, and Alderman Smith was like, you know what, we authorized a ceasefire. Like, we're declaring a
Write it
ceasefire.
down. It's on the resume.
Hang on, I'm gonna call Netanyahu right now. Yep, shut it down. Like it.
But there's something to that too, where like, do you remember that ever happening with Ukraine? Like these are wars happening
No.
at the same time. I don't either, and I have tried to be really tied in with it, and I'm not like. What is the difference? I don't know what the difference is. I know people will go down these conspiracy rabbit holes about what the difference is, but like, there's something that's different.
What is it?
I don't know. For some reason, there's that. You're seeing so many more protests right now, and maybe it's because we're on the side of Ukraine. So like, but you'd think that people would be protesting that Israel or that Russia has a ceasefire or something, whereas they're protesting against our.
No.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I get lost in it. I get lost in it because they're like, we've authorized a ceasefire. And I'm like, stop. Like, you literally wasted everyone's time.
Now, there is an interesting dynamic in Gaza. One of the reasons that I'm interested in this, first off, it hits home more. I feel like for our military experience, it resonates a little bit better to understand like IEDs and RPG attacks as opposed to full-scale war.
Yeah.
But in back on Telegram, all of these groups have Telegram channels, and we follow them, and they are constantly blaming America. Every time something bad happens, it is Israel and America. Israel drops a bomb. It is the fault of the Biden administration. And like that is going to land with people at some point. At some point, somebody is going to take action because they keep being told that the reason that somebody died in Gaza today is not because of an Israeli soldier that missed his target and accidentally shot a Palestinian, but it's because of the Biden administration. It's because of the United States.
Is that because we're so linked to Israel?
I don't know that. Maybe, but it's one and the same.
Yeah.
Every single thing Israel does, they present to their audience these jihadi groups as it's Israel and the United States.
Israel in the West.
Yeah.
We haven't dropped a single bomb in Gaza.
Yeah.
We haven't had a single troop on the ground in Gaza. Yet every single action that happens there, it is the United States.
Didn't we deny aid to them too at some point? Or like
I think we slowed weapon shipments at
That's
one
what it
point.
was, yeah.
I think we turned them back on.
Aren't we supporting both of them?
We're giving aid.
Giving aid to Palestine.
Yeah.
And then what are we doing for Israel?
Or whatever they want, kind of like genuinely, which was there has been a source of like some silliness in this one too, because
Never been a better time to be at Raytheon.
We put that pier in that we're now taking back down.
There's a pier. What are you talking about?
They built a pier. The U.S. military built a pier to attach to the Gaza Strip so we could bring more aid in by sea.
Okay.
JLOTS is what it's called. JLOTS. I made a video about it actually today on TikTok. They're taking it down now.
Your video or the pier?
Good question.
Yeah, probably both.
The pier.
Okay. That's how much aid we're giving them? We had to give them more.
We built a pier in Gaza to deliver more aid. Now, the argument there is because Israel was not allowing as much aid in through their borders because they tightened security.
Understandable, I guess.
But nonetheless, there were conspiracy theorists that said this is how the United States is secretly delivering weapons to Gaza, to Israel.
Okay.
We just fly weapons into Israel like all day, every day.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not a secret. It's just
it's not.
Hasn't been for a long time.
But now we got rid of the pier?
It's
because
they put out that it's winding down.
Because of peer pressure?
Oh, look at you. It broke a couple times. It's not designed to be a long-term solution.
Yeah, it looks like one of those little floating ones that the fucking Batman set up for, in Dark Knight when he's driving around. It's like, yeah, it's for fording.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a temporary solution. They've had it there relatively long-term.
Oh, there's Pop. Check him out. Okay.
And apparently once the aid was getting into Gaza, it was just sitting on the beach and rotting.
Why?
So in some conflict zones, you'll have the force, like in Somalia, the U.S. will be like, we're going to help distribute the aid. We'll provide security to the UN running aid convoys. In Gaza, Israel said, you guys figure it out. You come pick it up and then go deliver it. And
they can't figure out to show up to the ocean.
They can't get it distributed. There's half the place is still a war zone. Distribution points are clogged. It's a mess.
Wow, this is really disheartening. So we're literally involved in both aspects of this conflict.
Yeah.
So there's never an end. There's never going to be an end.
This is another one where the two sides, their arguments are just complete contradictory. You hear the ceasefire talk, and there's been probably 20 different times a ceasefire has come up, but Hamas still holds hostages. I want to say the number's between 30 and 50 at this point.
That is true, correct?
That is insane. 7 months of hostages underground in Israel.
Why can't we send in someone on those aid trips or whatever? I mean, like, that's sad.
It's crazy. I think there might have been a window in the first month of the war for U.S. troops to go on the ground, and because there are American citizens involved in that group. But they're behind. They're protected, pretty well protected now. But Hamas has said in the war, withdraw fully from Gaza, and we'll release your prisoners. Israel is wants the prisoners back. The hostages back, but they want Hamas dismantled. So Hamas wants to stay in power and Israel out. Israel says, "Screw you! You're all going to die." Hamas, you can't be in power. And there's no
give in either one of those arguments.
Israel's not going to leave their hostages behind. They're not going to leave the strip until they've killed some of these senior leaders.
As I'm trying to objectively, I have a question. Should we have ever gotten involved?
I don't think we really are all that much. I mean, you're talking about like the pier
at all. I mean, in any aspect.
To bring it out a little bit, in Yemen, yes. We kind of played a central role in what's called Operation Prosperity Guardian, trying to protect international shipping moving through the Red Sea. Mm-hmm. I think it's a great mission for the U.S. It's been very challenging, and you could argue that the Houthis have been more successful than not at this point because shipping is way, way down through that area. It's terrorism. They're launching rockets and drones at civilian ships, and it's very hard to stop that. In Israel, I think we probably made our bed a long time ago. We've been linked up with Israel for everything they do. Exactly.
What I'm saying is, like, it doesn't seem like we're ever going to be able to walk away from either side. And that's what I mean. Like, I don't know. What do we do? Preston, tell me what we do.
My counter is I don't know how much. I don't think that has the same impact as what's happened in Russia and Ukraine. Like, Israel and the Palestinians have been fighting for a long time.
Since the dawn of time.
It's probably not going to stop anytime soon. If we can avoid a regional war, is war bad? Yes. The suffering of people is bad? Yes. But first off, we're not all that invested compared with Ukraine and other areas around the world.
I think that's the only thing that stops us from being more invested is Russia and Ukraine.
I don't know what more we would do. Because it's a tough spot. Every time they ship over new weapons, there's protests about how our weapons are being used in a war zone. Mm-hmm. Which is a bad thing, I guess. Yeah.
Huh.
It's messy, though. I genuinely have people, they'll say, I just don't watch any of your videos about Gaza because it's so confusing.
I think this helped.
I'm confused right now.
No, yes, but this definitely helped.
Yeah.
But it's so messy. You know, at least in Russia and Ukraine, you're like, that is an army. That is an army.
Right.
Let's see what they do with the front.
Yeah, I mean, you have innocent, like an innocent group of population. Then you have an insurgency. Then you have a true army, and then you have us thrown into the mix. And then
I mean, it's a fucking nightmare what's happening to the people of Palestine. Yeah. And while there's also Iran involving itself, and then Israel, and then we're putting aid on both. It just feels like I don't know.
Let me make it even messier. Do you guys follow the hostage rescue operation a month or so ago?
No.
So Israel sent in some special operators to daytime raid to pull out four
daytime raid
into an area of Gaza, and they pulled out three or four hostages. They were being held in a civilian's home.
Wow.
Above ground. Civilian, I say, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were doing dishes for the person. They at times, I guess, were forced to read the Quran and try to
trying to convert them over.
I don't know if it's necessarily convert or just do what we're doing, but they were essentially slaves in the homes of who otherwise we would consider civilians. That's a problem because then you say, well, I feel bad for the Palestinian people. And you go, but that person should have said something. How could you just do this? How could you just have this prisoner in your home?
Well, it's easy, an insurgency.
And then it starts to blur those lines between the innocent civilians, which there are innocent civilians.
For sure, there are innocent
civilians. Which bringing
civilians.
it back to Afghanistan. I
mean, and then there's these supporters, right?
But but the insurgency in Afghanistan always had the love of the populace. I I mean, at least the guys we were around, everyone, they're like, dude, they pay better than you. They're nicer than you. Like it was, I was never like, why don't you like us? Like it's a good gig. And you're also being told a lot of times by your religious leaders that these guys are good, those guys are bad.
Mhm.
Right.
It's so dehumanizing, that conflict, compared to when I look through my comments on that or the DMs I get from that war versus Russia and Ukraine. It's not close. It's just so much hatred there.
Where do you think it starts?
The hatred,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Or what's the source? Where is it?
I think it's generational in a sense. To me, it comes across as something that's generational, like it's there and it just needs something to kind of trigger it. So, you know, it might not be something that anybody ever acts on or says anything, but then something happens and it's like, oh yeah, the things I've been told that are kind of whispered in my ear, I now know it to be true because I saw the footage of what they did on October 7th, or I saw the footage of the bombs they dropped on that camp in Gaza.
Mhm.
Now I know it to be true. But yeah, it's rough, man.
So we don't have an end in sight.
Not either one of these. The closest I think we could get, I think you'll see an end in Gaza before Ukraine.
Really?
Why?
Yeah. Because at some point, Gaza is very similar to Iraq and Afghanistan, where we can just at some point say, we won, mission accomplished,
Yeah.
and kind of change the dynamics on the battlefield.
Yeah.
It's not crazy.
Change the
that
outcomes.
in
Yeah.
the next 3-4 weeks, something like that, Israel could very easily say, we have completed our mission. We dismantled their infrastructure.
Okay.
Their leadership is on the run, hiding somewhere.
Mhm.
We've killed 30% of their fighters, whatever it is. Now we're transitioning to a counterinsurgency model, and we're just going to conduct targeted raids. And that's going to be the norm for the next 5-10 years or something, to where they pull out 90% of their troops. They just have special operations forces going in once a week, kind of, kill capture type missions. Because they can just say, we're done. We did it. Good job. And
Yeah.
God, you're smart. You just really know a lot.
it's a lot of talking, man.
It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of research. I appreciate, and I know Blas does too, and everyone does, your work, your dedication, and your earnestness is one of the things I like the most about what you do.
It means a lot, dude.
Yeah, because I know it's not easy putting up stuff like your constant battle with TikTok. Like the stuff that they allow on there is insane, and the stuff that they don't allow on there is just
Nobody
as
knows.
baffling. But we're eternally grateful for you being able to stop by and help to educate us on this. It's I don't know, Blas, you got anything?
No, I mean, like, just to reiterate what Zach said, man, like, there's not a lot of people out there on the internet who truly have, like, an unbiased opinion and a heart to do this type of stuff, man. And we just genuinely appreciate it. I've learned a lot from you being here, and even the last time you were here. So I could definitely walk away feeling a lot better talking about this subject, knowing that, I was educated by somebody who's unbiased and that we respect. And I know the internet respects. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, guys. It's really nice to. I want to say fun conversations. It was fun to talk. Maybe that's the way to put it.
Yeah,
it's fun
yeah.
to talk with you guys. Tough conversations, but one's worth having.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And thank you everyone for joining us. Please don't forget to follow Preston Stewart wherever you find him: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. And we'll catch you next time.
See y'all.
Later.